Hi everybody. In this short video, I am going to give you the Guru Mantra of military jurisprudence, which even high ranking officials do not understand and do not understand the implications and consequences. If you are a law student, if you are a budding lawyer, even if you are a senior advocate, you must watch this video because you will learn a lot in terms of jurisprudence. So, Army Act is the parent statute. I'm going to use the word Army and Navy Act and the Air Force Act are pari materia of each other. I am more comfortable and familiar with the Army Act, so I'm going to use that. So in Army Act is the parent statute. Then there is a something called as Army Rules, which is delegated legislation. Then there is a one-man compendium signed by Under Secretary or Joint Secretary Mr. Bhattacharya. I'll have to look it up in my papers. I'm forgetting. So that is the executive policy which has come up, and that is called Defense Services Regulation. Now, a lot of army orders, army instructions, army policies, letters, they come out of this DSR. Now, how valid is this DSR? In administrative or service law jurisprudence, we have to understand that any provision which is coming out of a DSR or an army order or an army instruction or an army policy is repugnant to the parent statute, then it is invalid in law. Can you go to AFT for relief? Can AFD do something? Yes, AFT can help you with that, but it is like a stopgap measure. It is not going to have a ripple effect on cases of other officers or Jawans similarly situated. How can a batch of officers challenge something like this? They have to challenge the constitutionality of DSR by invoking the writ jurisdiction of High Court or Supreme Court as it is applicable. Now, this is the Guru Mantra of military jurisprudence, which will be applicable in promotions, which will be applicable in so many other personal laws. In today's video, I'm going to tell you about the how the military should not impose a mandatory maintenance out of the officer's salary to their wives and the children. Now, don't get me wrong, my heart beats for every woman. I'm myself a woman and I am a sworn feminist. But being a feminist also means equality and somewhere equitability. Now, army wives always have it very difficult. They move along, they leave their career, they leave their everything behind to move with their spouse. And some of the officers are not even worthy of wearing the uniform because their conduct is unbecoming of an officer. They are indulging in adultery, they are causing so much physical and emotional trauma to their spouse, to their children. So this video is not with the intention to help those kind of people. This video is with the intention to help officers who are actually facing lot of fake litigation, fake dowry cases. Their parents are getting harassed, or their career is down in the dumps because of their personal problems. So this is to target that. So as I have explained, there is a civil law of civil nature which is called section 125 of CRPC, which is maintenance. Then we have section 24, section 25 of HMA, which is again alimony and maintenance to wife and kids. Then we have minority and guardianship again, which is talking about maintenance to children. So these are the acts which involve civil nature. A court of civil jurisdiction has a has a more defined place in personal law, which is marriage. Okay, so marriage is a personal law, be it a Hindu marriage or a Muslim marriage. These are personal laws. So only courts of civil nature have the power to deal with such cases. What is the military doing? They are straight away deducting the salary of a officer. So in this case, what is happening is, when a military authority does not have the power to deduct a salary of a faulting officer, They are doing it in the name of giving maintenance to the wife and kids. When is this kind of thing valid? This is valid if there is a proper court of inquiry, a general court martial where the officer is found guilty, and then the commanding officer, the presiding officer of the GCM can come up with an order saying that because of this we are deducting this salary and we are giving it to the spouse. But remember, there is no such specific provision in the Army Act. So you will have to refer to Section 71 of the Army Act in this. And deduction of salary is actually a penal offense in the military statute, the Parent Act. Now, what is happening is when the GOC or the army commander, the corps commander, or the CO for that matter, is straight away deducting the salary of a Jawan or a officer, this is not in consonance to the civil law, where the concerned officer has to be tried whether he is guilty or not. He will get an opportunity to be heard, and only then an interim maintenance will be given to the wife and the children. But in their overzeal or zeal to protect women, prevent destitution, and bring some harmony, some sense of peace, the officers, the senior ranking officers, are immediately providing 1/3 of the salary to the wife and kids. So it is 1/5 if it's a wife and 1/3 if it's with wife and kids, and based on the gross income, not the net income. So where was I? So the military authorities, how they are deducting the maintenance, in my humble opinion, is a violation of the civil laws, and marriage related issues are dealt with the civil laws. Now here one can say this is conduct unbecoming of an officer and therefore he is found guilty, so his salary is deducted. Okay, you are punishing him, the salary is deducted. But do you have the power to divert the salary to the wife and children? Maybe we need more research, more laws on this, how the military authorities are deriving power of rerouting an officer's earned income to wife and kids. They definitely can reduce his income, they can deduct his income if he is found guilty in a GCM. Most of the times these things are not coming out of a GCM, and summary trial and all will not be applicable in this particular case, in my humble opinion. You can correct me if I'm wrong, we can maybe discuss it. I will try to revert to your comments. If there is something that you want to add to this, you can let me know. I would be more than doing. I'll be leaving my email address. You can revert to your query on that. And if there is something you want me to read up on and do more research, let me know that as well. So this is about how army cannot grant maintenance to wife and kids. There is a blog on this. You can go through the blog. I've given the link in the description. I want to explain the meaning of the word repugnancy. So this is a legal term. It means if you are an officer and you have studied the Army Act, there is something called as sections in an Army Act, which is there in every statute. So repugnancy would mean that a particular army order, army instruction, policy letter, or letter or DSR could be repugnant to the Parent Act or Army rules if the scope of those rules is either directly in conflict with the main sections of the Army Act, they are beyond the scope or the power or the jurisdiction that those sections grant to talk about, define, and mention. Okay, so law is a very technical subject, and it takes a lot of training to understand the nuances of it. That is why people spend so much time in an LLB degree. Generally, clients have a tendency of being expert of their own subject matter. That inherent bias we face in all kind of litigation. So I don't know if you are able to understand the nitty gritties, but I'm presuming you are well versed with the laws. If suppose you are a JAG officer, you will understand what I'm trying to say. So basically, here I'm saying that Army Order 2 of 2001 is repugnant to the law of the land. How? Because in this video, I'm also talking about parallel jurisdiction, court of competent jurisdiction, exclusive jurisdiction. So personal laws are what? They are in the exclusive jurisdiction of civil laws. So in if you see from that point of view, then the military authorities cannot assume jurisdiction of which is exclusively in the domain of the civil courts and grant maintenance to wife and children. So this has been discussed in parliamentary standing committees also, and this recommendation has been given to the military authorities not to come up with such kind of orders where there is deduction in the officer's salary straight away when a wife complains, and the maintenance is routed to the wife and kids. So this, in my humble opinion, is unconstitutional. So when I'm talking about repugnancy, if you feel if there is a letter or army order, army instruction, or a policy letter which is in direct conflict, or in some in pith and substance, or in some way it is in consonance, but in some clause it is in conflict with the main section, a part of the main section, then you can also that particular clause can be separable and be okay. This is too technical for a layman. This is not what my intention here is to do. Basically what I want to tell is that whichever part portion of the law which is in direct conflict with the section of the Army Act, you can challenge its constitutional validity in a court of writ jurisdiction. So instead of assuming that you are yourself a lawyer, just hire a good lawyer who can argue your case. And one other point that I want to make here is, yeah, so a lot of times when clients come to me, they don't have the policy letter, they don't have the army order, they don't have the army instruction. It makes the job of your lawyer hell. It's like we are clueless. We don't know what we are swimming in, just like you are, because we don't have the army orders, we don't have the army instructions, we don't have the policy letters. What the MS branch does, it just quotes the serial number of any AI or AO or policy letter. It never provides a copy to the officer, obviously, because they are going to say that we have already given you the compendium, you have not bothered to keep it with you. But please, whoever gets commission should always have their compendium handy. E-copies are available. What you will not find are specific army orders and army instructions which are not even there available in the command headquarter. Those are only and only with the MS branch, and because they are repugnant, because their constitutionality can be challenged, and because it is going against the policies, because it is favoring the policies which are arbitrary, unconstitutional. That is why they are kept under a lot of secrecy, and one can file an RTI to find out to get a copy. Because when I have faced this difficulty in the courts, whenever we file a case, unless we know what army order, what army instruction we are challenging, we provide the copy to the court. The court has a lot of confusion to understand what the concept is. So make sure you have a copy of the AO or AI which your lawyer has asked you to target. So that's one homework every officer has to do. And the court of competent jurisdiction in terms of marriage and personal laws is a civil court. Okay, so here I can also tell you about a CBI case. So what happens is, this is in reference to parallel jurisdiction. Now, a lot of times what happens is disciplinary cases come up, cases of corruption come up. In cases of corruption, exclusive jurisdiction is with the CBI. Army Act also has a provision of handling corruption. It does. But wherever this parallel jurisdiction of two different investigating agencies is coming in, what there is a existing memorandum of understanding between the CBI, between the Ministry of Defense, and between the Army. This is there in a letter of 1993, which most people are not aware of. And through that letter, it says that whenever there is a parallel jurisdiction of CBI, Army Act, and all Army authorities, then CBI can do the investigation. Now, when one investigation agency is investigating the matter, it is wise that the army authorities do not carry on a parallel investigation, because once the investigation has been handed over from the army to the CBI, then that investigation is in the exclusive domain of the CBI. And who will be the court of competent jurisdiction to try such a case? That would be a CBI special court. So when the army has handed over its jurisdiction, its investigation to CBI, then the army authorities cannot run a parallel investigation. They can also not run a parallel trial on the same cause of action, in my humble opinion, in my understanding. You can always comment or write me an email telling me what more I can research on. I would be more than happy to do that. I think I can talk about jurisdiction. I should make a separate video on this. My idea was to explain the concept of jurisdiction, parallel jurisdiction, court of competent jurisdiction, court of exclusive jurisdiction. What happens when two different investigating authorities are investigating or conducting trial? It is double harassment for the officer. Let me come back to the maintenance, this thing. Now the army has directly given maintenance to wife and kids. For example, 40,000 is given to wife and kids as a stopgap measure, and the cases are, wife also goes to the civil courts and starts litigating. Now the officer is doubly harassed. Why? Because once he has professionally been facing indignation, professional humiliation, and negative work environment, and cantonment life is a very myopic life. So that personal life is also gone. Then there is double harassment of trial by the civil courts, where again the officer who is already posted somewhere in the remote area has to come, arrange for his leave, come down, travel, attend the court hearings. If he doesn't attend, there can be a summon against him, there can be an arrest warrant against him. His senior citizen parents are also involved in litigation, and when there are children involved, there is a very ugly court battle, that custody battle that keeps going on, so on and so forth. I will make a video on custody cases also. There is a tendency in which spouses have a very jilted, revengeful response to the crisis, conflict. My advice to all the clients who come to me is, forget your ego, forget your revenge, forget your justice, mediate and settle the matter. Don't drag the conflict, don't prolong the conflict. It is not going, nobody is a winner in a divorce case or in a custody battle. In a custody battle, the child is the loser, because the child is involved as a tug of ego battles. In divorce case, your parents, your family, you are suffering out of ego, out of self-respect. Self-respect is also a form of ego only. And wherever you can mediate, you can settle, go in for mutual consent and just settle the matter. If you want, I can also talk about divorce later. So this is basically the issues and common areas which which are part of military jurisprudence. I will come up with more. You can also come back for more and find out if there is anything that interests you. And I will be coming up with a lecture series on military jurisprudence. There's a lot to learn. It's a niche subject, and not many people are aware of this. And because so many lawyers are not aware of this, I see that a lot of people are suffering, a lot of officers are suffering, a lot of their families are suffering, because military jurisprudence is very niche and very specialized. So you must go to somebody who has a good mix of civil experience and experience of military jurisprudence, who can understand and get things sorted instead of getting things complicated. So that's all for today. Let me know if there is something you want to specifically know. I would be more than happy to address that query. God bless you and see you soon.